Darryl, it's Moose and Maggie here on The Fan. Thanks so much for a few minutes today.
All right. Thank you, guys, Moose and Maggie. Good to be with you guys.
Pleasure's great to be with you, Darryl. And, let's start here first before we get to the book, which I got a chance to read a lot of last night and enjoyed. This is a special anniversary for the Mets, which is the anniversary of Gary Carter being traded to the New York Mets and what that meant as the final piece to the championship team in 1986. Do you remember when you first met Gary and just sort of what your first impressions were of him?
Well, I was just thinking about that trade, when it happened, and it just said, wow, we were just really moving in the right direction when we acquired Carter, because he was a elite player, all-star, and one of the best catchers in the game. And, not only could he hit, but he could catch. And when you think about it, when you get a catcher that can catch and handle your pitching staff, I just knew from there that the pieces would start coming together for us, and we were going to get better, and we eventually was going to be in a place where we could actually win. And, Carter was just a phenomenal person, outside of just being a phenomenal player. He was an example of what a man is really supposed to be like and how you're supposed to live your life. And, I just have so much respect for him after looking back over his career and having him on our team. And, he just brought so much, to New York. And I'm quite sure the fans loved him and adored him and appreciated him. And I'm quite sure that our teammates did too, as far as, his performance and especially for the pitching staff. I know they just love the fact that you finally had somebody behind the plate that understood them and utilized their strength, each one of them, because everybody's different.
Darryl, similar in nature to what Hernandez presented in that clubhouse as well, what Gary presented?
No question. Those two guys, were cornerstones of, who we were, and how we, the younger players would go out and play. Ray Knight played a big part of that too. You had like three players that was, really veteran players that was always in the game and played the game the right way. Of course, Mookie Wilson was too, another player that had been there a long time. These guys, younger players could look at and understand the importance of how you're supposed to go about your business and play the game.
Darryl Strawberry is our guest. We're reflecting on the trade that brought Gary Carter to New York, but want to talk about your book, Turn Your Season Around. And, Darryl, can I just read part of it that really kind of hit home for me? And you talk about in 1998, you said you had 24 home runs in only 101 games with the Yankees, including 2 pinch-hit grand slams. You said, but after every game, when I took off the pinstripe uniform in front of my clubhouse locker, the same empty feeling returned that had trolled me with the Mets, Dodgers, and Giants. Sadly, my whole identity was wrapped up in being a professional baseball player. My uniform was merely a facade for greatness, shielding the brokenness that ached within me. Wow. Yike. That's a big admission. If you take yourself back into that time, were you unhappy playing baseball at that time?
No, I was always happy playing baseball. Baseball was fun. We have to separate who we are from, what we do, and that was something I did for a very long time. I was a kid growing up. I loved the game of baseball, but the happiness of who I was inside was completely empty. I accumulated a lot of things, material things and success and trophies and privilege, living behind community gates and stuff like that. I accumulated a lot of earthly things, but on the inside, it doesn't fill the empty void of one on the inside. It's just stuff. And, I really got to a point where, I was never happy with, just being a player. I was happy with who I was as a player, but I wasn't happy becoming a man, because I never fell into the place of being a man. When I say a man, I talk about guys like Gary Carter, Mookie Wilson. When I saw them live, they lived according to who they were, not what they did. They played baseball and went home, and they was with their family, and they lived a separate life. And I think every player searched for that. There's an empty void that dwells on the inside of all of us. And I think a lot of times people think, well, you should be happy because you're playing Major League Baseball. Yeah, we're fortunate to play Major League Baseball because we're talented. But at the same time, who am I? The baseball uniform didn't make me a man. I didn't become a man until I met God and started walking in faith.
So, Darryl, are you conflicted at all, though, when you think about times in your career? Because at that point, you were struggling with your identity of who you were as a man, but your baseball career, is taking off and you're having success. So when you think back on it now, is it ever conflicting to you? And then furthermore, when you decided to make changes in your life, were there friendships that you had to leave behind from baseball that may have been painful to do and sacrifices you had to make?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of friendships. When I turned on this journey and became a new person, and God transformed my life, and I started moving in a different direction. Everybody kind of scattered, and they said, "Well, let's see how long this will last." And it's been 17 years, that I've been walking this way and doing what I've been doing to make a difference in helping people and being in ministry. It wasn't conflicting to me as far as when I was playing, but when I became a different person, it was because I had to remove myself away from the spotlight, and I had to go into a different type of place and kind of hid out with God for like 7 years or so, studying the Bible and just becoming a different person and had a transformation. I'm no better than anybody. I just made a commitment. I made a different commitment to, just like I was playing baseball, I made a commitment to play at the highest level. And I was very disciplined. I had to do the same thing in my faith. I did that. And, I became a different person. Then I started traveling the country, 250 times a year, preaching all over the place and, just helping people with addiction, helping people with life situations. And it's been a blessing to be able to be who I am today and to be able to give back and help somebody else because I had so much, I always think to whom much is given, much is required. Something's required for us to give back. And I'm just very fortunate that I've been able to give back and help so many people in what I'm doing today.
Darryl, even though painful for sure, the journey that you went on through your life, do you think, are you in a lot of ways thankful for the journey you went on because of the place that you're in now?
Yes, I am very thankful for the journey I went on. I wouldn't recommend it to nobody to go on that type of journey. It's a very hard, painful journey. But at the end, I learned so much, and I learned the importance of, why I was created and why it's important to understand how to be a man. I think when you don't have that growing up in your family, you have a tendency of struggling with the identity of who you are, and you allow yourself to keep the uniform on and never take it off. And I just remember my wife, Tracy, said one day, she said to me, "When are you going to ever take the uniform off and identify yourself who God called you to be?" And that really changed me when she said that because I never heard anyone tell me that, and I could never get away from Darryl Strawberry, the baseball player. So I finally removed myself away from the baseball player, and I spring forward into such a great life and tremendous faith and just walking and caring about people. And I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day. Do we really love people like we're supposed to? I think a lot of times a lot of people did love me, but I didn't, have the love and care for people. I hurt a lot of people because of my destructive behavior. I hurt 2 wives and also 6 kids, because I was selfish and self-centered and in addiction. And I look back and I had to go make amends to all those people. And it just kind of brought my life back to a full circle and brought it back into purpose.
Darryl, early on, was there anybody on that Mets team that tried to get through to you, but you just weren't listening?
Well, I think guys like Gary Carter and Mookie Wilson was examples for all of us. I think so many of us was on the straddling fence of being so lost. We were so good and so talented, but at the same time, you had guys like Carter and Wilson who lived a life in faith, and they didn't try to force it on anybody. They just actually lived it. Kid would go out to dinner with us. Mookie would go out to dinner with us. But when the rest of us was hitting the nightlife, they were going back home to the hotel and said, "See you at the ballpark tomorrow." That was real discipline, and that was something I didn't have. I wish I would have had that kind of discipline like that. I wish I would have had what they had. I had the talent, but I just didn't have the skills of being a man to have the discipline and faith that they had, where they loved playing baseball, but they loved Gary and Mookie. They loved God first, and then they loved their family. And, baseball was just what they did. I wish I would have understood that when I was in the midst of being a baseball player.
Darryl Strawberry is our guest. His new book is called Turn Your Season Around. Darryl, many years ago, I got a chance to sit down with Mike Tyson, and he talked a lot about finding his own identity away from just like being Mike Tyson. And he said the hardest days for him are actually the days when people are fawning over him. Like he came in, did an interview with Sports Illustrated. We went back through his old fights and how great he was. And he said those days are harder for me than anything because it starts to fill me back up with that sort of pride that I had, and that can lead to negative things. And I'm curious now, when you meet people, you've worked so hard to separate yourself from Darryl Strawberry, the ball player. Now when you meet people who fawn all over you, who want to talk about those old times, like, How does that feel to you now?
It feels great. I mean, I love people, and I'm very thankful that, fans have always been great to me. I think more than anything, regardless of what I went through. I think, the headlines were the media more than anything that I had to face. And, it never was the fans. I was always appreciative of the fans because they cared and they wanted me well. They saw a good person and they just wanted me to be well on the inside. And, I love the fact of talking to fans and stuff like that about, the baseball career. And sometimes I, get into conversations like this, and, I enjoy talking, going back and looking back and seeing what was really important. Now I can recognize what was really important and the people that were really important. And I think it's important to always remember that God blessed me with a talent to play and play in a city like New York. I'm forever grateful, forever thankful for, what New York stands for and the people there, because they helped me grow into the person I am today, even, with my overcoming all the struggles that I had. They were a big part of my life, and, I'll never forget that. So when I travel the country and I see fans, I'm always signing autographs, even if I'm going into a church to minister to people. It's just a part of who I will always be. But at the same time, I hope people that come to hear me speak, they will hear a message that, is totally different compared to what I used to do for us on the ball field.
Sure.
Yeah, and Darryl, you're the rare player that had success and moments with both the Mets and the Yankees. What do you think that '86 team would be like? All the personalities here in 2020.
We would be great. We were a great team. I mean, it's probably the best team. I mean, of course, I played on the Yankees good '98 team, but as far as that '86 Met team, it was such a grind, and we had such big hearts, and we just knew we were going to win. We just knew we could come back, and of course, we went through that period of, with the Astros in that series, and then we had to go to Boston, and we were down, and we just came back. We battled, we were a fighter, and I think that's what baseball is really all about. And, had we played in these years like this, we would just dominate, because the thing about our guys is, we didn't take no mess. Nobody would come into Shea Stadium and they would not throw at us and not get away with it, because, we were going to fight. And that was a part of who we were back in those days. And so I'm grateful for all those guys. I don't care, how our lives turned out to be. Yes, some of us had some troubles. And, unfortunately, I moved on the other side, and I wish, some of the other ones, have a chance to move on the other side, because I love all those guys, because what we meant to, playing in Queens was just remarkable. And when you play with brothers like that, you never forget who they are.
Darryl Strawberry is our guest. Check out his new book, Turn Your Season Around. So now that the Mets have a new owner, Steve Cohen, one of the big things that he actually took, I think, from a suggestion from a fan on Twitter, but loved the idea, was about the Old Timers Day, Darryl, and coming back. Now, I know you're a man of God now, but is there anyone you really want a piece of?
Is there anyone I would want to see?
A piece of? Like, do you want to hit off someone? Is there someone who you want to face again now if you do Old Timers Day?
No. I mean, of course, that would be a lot of fun to see some of the old different guys, who really wore the Met uniform and the Met history. The Met history is pretty great, but it's never been recognized by, the last ownership, and unfortunately, that was just a part of it, regardless of what people have been through. That's what I love about the Yankees. They don't really look at people and what they've been through. They look at people that has wore the uniform, and I think the boss was like that. You wore the Yankee uniform, you're a part of the Yankee family. And that should be the same with the Mets organization playing in New York. You wore the Met uniform, you're a part of our family. And, hopefully, with the new ownership, he sounds like a wonderful guy. He's really engaging with the fans, and he sounds like he want to do wonderful things for the organization and really bring the history of what the New York Mets is all about.
Darryl, the Mets are expected to be big players here in free agency. What about guys like a personality of a Trevor Bauer, who is active on social media, can rub some people the wrong way? What about would be the lesson for those guys that haven't experienced playing in New York day in and day out? What's it like playing in the city?
It's okay to rub people the wrong way, but as long as you go out and perform, I think, I think that's the importance of playing in New York City. You're gonna rub some people the wrong way, and they're not gonna like you. But when you get out on the field, hey man, it's due time. I remember times when where the media would write about me and I was struggling and slumping, and I would run out there and I strike out the first time and they boo, and I said okay. Well, the next couple of times I hit a couple off the scoreboard, and then they want me to come out for a curtain call, and I wouldn't come out for a curtain call. So it's a game that you play with inside of yourself, but you don't take it personal. I think sometimes too many players take it personal playing in New York. You can't take it personal, because if you take it real personal, it will eat you up. The fans will eat you up, the media eats you up. It's just part of what you got to learn to deal with. And I think a guy that has personality, if you really want to play in New York, be prepared, because you're going to get booed if you suck, if you come there and you're not playing well, because they want you to play well because they know you're talented, and that's what I love about that.
Yeah, and didn't you told the story in the book about Ray Knight having a similar message, Darryl, to telling you basically quit pouting after Vin Scully called you out on national TV for your home run trout.
Oh yeah, I guess Ray didn't really tell me to stop pouting. I think it was more everybody thought I was pouting because of the fact it was between me and Davey, and he was really trying to tell me get over it. When I actually hit the home run, you need to get over it, and you need to go over there and shake Davey's hand. Everybody always wondered what he was talking about, and that's the kind of teammates we had back in those days. They would get in our butt, because we were young players, and young players think they have it all together, and they think they know what they're doing, and they think every year is going to be a good year. Every year is not going to be a bang, bang year. You're going to have some years in between where it's going to be hard, and you got to learn how to get through it. And I think the players like Ray Knight and Carter and Hernandez, really kept that young group of guys together, because we had some loose cannons on that team that were young.
No doubt.
They would think it was all, we would think it was all about us. Lenny was one, other guys, we think it was all about us, and those guys kept us in line. And I'm very grateful for those guys keeping us in line.
Darryl Strawberry is our guest. If you could give some advice to Steve Cohen, the new owner of the Mets, obviously you played for one of the most infamous, notorious owners of all time with Steinbrenner, but if you could give him any advice about owning a team in New York, the same way you might give advice to players who would come to New York and show personality, what would your advice be to the new Mets owner?
Well, I would look at the organization from, top to bottom. And I would start building at the bottom. I would start building my farm system up again. I think that's the key right there. I will look at who we're drafting, what kind of players we're drafting. And I think we need to get back to drafting players that can play, players that can go first to third, players that, can move guys over, players that can do the little things. Everybody's not going to be a home run hitter. In this day, everybody think, just hitting the ball out of the ballpark is going to win games. You can hit a lot of solo home runs that's not going to win games. But if you can't move guys over and you can't get guys in from third and you can't do the little things, I think the fundamentals of building the organization back up. Because when I came through the organization, the Mets organization was the most talented organization around when we were back in the 80s and the days of coming up. You had some talented players. Even I came through, Doc came through, and then we had some more young talented players that came through. Lenny, Greg Jeffers, all these guys were talented players. If you don't get back to developing players that could do more than just one thing, you cannot be successful. The reason why the Yankees are so successful because they develop young players. They develop homegrown players and they blend them in with other players. But I think that's the key for the Mets organization is what kind of players are we drafting and who's running the organization down in the minor leagues. And let's get back to being able to teach guys how to steal bases, go first to third, bunt the ball, get guys over. It's so many things that, I've seen over the years that cost them from winning ball games and being able to be better than what they were. It's because of not being able to do the little things.
Musa Maggie with you, being joined here. Darryl Strawberry, new book, Turn Your Season Around, How God Transforms Your Life. Darryl, I got one more for you, and that is about Carlos Beltran, who we saw get the Mets job, then ousted after being connected to that 17 Astros cheating scandal. Cora back in the game, Hinch back in the game. You think Beltran, over time here, is going to get himself back into baseball?
I think so, and he should, because Carlos is a wonderful guy. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody falls short in some areas of all lives, all our lives. And I think he deserves another chance. There's no question about it. I thought, I thought the Mets organization should have stuck with him and looked at him as who he is as a person. And cheating in baseball has been around forever. We all know how to cheat. We all know how to steal signs. And I think the problem happened with that. With the Astros was, they got caught because of TVs, and the monitors in the dugout. We didn't have those back in our days. You could stand on second base, you could steal a sign, and you can give a guy a sign turning left or right. You could tell him a fastball, curveball coming. It's just the way it is. And I think Beltran deserves another chance because he's a wonderful guy. He's a wonderful player, and he's a wonderful student of the game. And he would help so many. He would help so many young players learn how to play the game at the highest level because he played at the highest level, regardless of what they want to say of him cheating and others cheating. Cheating been there forever, and we've done it forever. So it's just a part of getting ahead of the other team, I think. And they just got caught because they went a little bit too overboard.
Darryl, we can't tell you how much we appreciate it. Congratulations on Turn Your Season Around. We know you've written books in the past, but this one, unlike any of those, really just life lessons from the 4-time World Series winner, obviously 8-time All-Star, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
All right. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate you guys.
You got happy holidays, Darryl, to you and your family.
All right.